Traditionalists would have everyone who peruses sporting journals believe there is only one gun dog breed for the serious ruffed grouse hunter. Grouse and English setters, as a result, have become both symbolic and symbiotic. For the fanatics, as with love and marriage, you can't have one without the other. Mention any other dog breed and stickler for form noses seek altitude. Fortunately or unfortunately, there are sportsmen less concerned with tradition who actually pick at that mortal lock fastening together grouse and English setters. Such apostatic partridge hunters love bird shooting and have discovered they can get as much or more action out of canines, not embedded in the lore, tales, and art of grouse cover gunning. Only slightly offbeat because they point birds, as does the icon of grouse dogs, are Brittany's and Pointers, English, which most frequently rival the English setter as deans of the Deadfall and Tag Alder covers. But they rarely inspire the artists whose depictions of a statuesque setter, in full bloom and unbedraggled by mud and burrs, surely have influenced the image conscious of the upland bird hunting fraternity. Proficient continental pointer retriever breeds, German shorthairs, wirehairs, etc., and occasional talented Irish and Gordon setters are relatively hard to see in dense cover. Consequently, they are often passed over by most hunters despite their suitability. Partridge hunters who utilize gun dogs from the ranks of the Flushing breeds are the genuine iconoclasts, often treated with courtesy, bordering on contempt by upper caste bird shooters who view them as a bit beyond the pale. But sportsmen who bang birds driven into flight by a spaniel or retriever see themselves as practical men, not parvenu, encountering more birds and facing more challenging shooting over their oddball dogs than is afforded by stylish pointing breeds. Whether the hunting style of English setters and other pointers will produce more birds, more shots, easier shots, more thrills and more enjoyment than do English springers, Labrador retrievers, and numerous less popular Flushing breed cousins depends less on the dogs involved than the sportsmen who shoot over them, hunting situations and cover encountered in grouse habitat. While spat upon by admirers of form over function, spaniels that hesitate before flushing, flash point or even hold point until the bird moves make for terrific ruffed grouse shooting. On the other side of the fence is a raft of dogs officially designated as pointers in one form or another, which hold point occasionally, infrequently, seldom or never, but nonetheless produce shots for gunners interested only in results. Whether by natural bent or training, what are essentially underfoot dogs are touted as close workers by their satisfied owners. Because of their proximity to the gun, it makes no difference whether they hold point, as is prescribed, or operate as spaniels and retrievers are expected to, putting up birds within gun range. So while conceding that the English setter is king among devoted grouse hunters, particular about form and style, and speculating that often naturally restricted range makes Brittany's the best choice for less involved grousers who do their own training, let's delve into the offbeat breeds and some reasons they might interest a lot of gunners avidly or casually interested in ruffed grouse shooting, particularly those who aren't sure the dogs they have are just what they need or hesitate to own a gun dog because they consider its training a daunting prospect. Whatever your hunting style, your gunning will be improved if you employ a grouse dog of some persuasion, if only from the increase in the number of shooting opportunities afforded by a decent hunting dog. My off-the-cuff estimate is that all other things being equal, a grouse gunner with a dog will see 3 to 5 times as many birds as a dogless hunter. This could be legitimately challenged by the first guy to step out of the brush onto the abandoned railroad right-of-way. See birds? Hell, just once I hunted with a pedigreed pointer, and all we did was hear birds that wild-running idiot chased up too far away to shoot. I'll bet there were a lot of others we couldn't hear way off in the distance that we might have walked up. For partridge hunting, so-called bird dogs are nothing but a pain in the butt. Good breeding, exposure to game, experience in the field, and considerable training are required to produce a decent gun dog, particularly if ruffed grouse are to be its specialty. Too many gun dog owners stint on the training. It takes time and effort they can't or won't expend. This is where the offbeat breeds have the advantage over the traditional favorites. Flushers require much less training, experience, and exposure than do pointers to develop into game bird producers of shots with a chance of scoring. The result is you'll be killing birds over flushers earlier. You won't have to worry about a hunting companion inadvertently messing up a started pup. You won't need a bell or beeper. You'll hunt relaxed more often because you won't worry about or actually lose a run-off dog. The reason you get the jump on hunters who concentrate their effort on pointers is that there is only one thing a flushing dog can do wrong that will frustrate a bird shooter who isn't all wrapped up in the mystique of gun dog training and appreciation. That sin is running up birds out of gun range. Hunting cover within gun range is as elemental for a flushing breed as holding stanch on point until the hunter comes up is for the pointing breeds. But getting a pointer to hold requires getting him to do something that's against nature, stay put and not jump in to try to catch the quarry. Hunting properly, a flushing dog is just doing what comes naturally when he pushes the bird out by driving in and trying to catch it. Nuances involved in training a pointer are absent. It's just easier to instill the control that keeps a flusher on course and in range. Whether you are on a logging road or busting brush cross-country, you will be walking much of the same ground your flushing dog is working. Keeping track of your flusher in most grouse and woodcock cover is no problem. You shouldn't need a bell or beeper. There will be no tense hikes to a distant beeper or searches for a brush-buried dog when a bell goes silent. You won't be able to see your spaniel or retriever in some dense cover situations. But because the dog is constantly on the move, you should be able to hear him fighting through the tangles. If you can't hear a flush dog working cover most of the time, your hunt has become a disaster. The position and progress of the dog will be audible. Stay with him and be alert for a flush. Should he slip off occasionally when you can't hear him, call him in. If he is on a running bird and gets out of earshot, if he doesn't obey, flinging shot at a wild flushed bird is a waste and wrongly encourages misbehavior. Don't do it. When your flusher is under observation, his increased animation will indicate when he's hot on game, keying you to be ready for a flush. But birds will also be busted out of thick stuff, where you can't read the dog. Birds coming out at any time, any place, and flying in any direction, in contrast to a pointer indicating bird location and the hunter's approach dictating flight direction, is what's given shooting over a flushing dog the reputation of being more difficult than a point-produced shot. Shots are often tough and often more sporting when presented to the gun by a spaniel or retriever, but not always. To get that predictable close-up shot that points provide, a shooter must go to that dog wherever he is stationed. When that's down in a thicket, a tag alder bog, or a popple stand, gun swinging is difficult and trees soak up shot. In contrast, while a flushing dog roots around in a creek bottom, or up to 25 to 30 yards on either side of a skid road or trail, the gunner can hang out along the edge or stick to the path to enjoy relatively unhindered gunplay on rise and flight. As noted earlier, hunters, terrain, cover, and bird reaction dictate difficult shooting. A pair of hunters will kill more birds over a pointing breed because the second hunter can position himself to get a decent shot, regardless of what's afforded the dog handler who moves in to put out the birds. A flushing breed will produce more shots and kills for a lone hunter, sometimes for a pair or trio of hunters if spread out a gunshot apart with a dog or two beating the cover between them. The breeds least likely to have you considered a kook are Labrador Retrievers and English Springer Spaniels. They have been proof-tested enough times to set the standard for flushing dog performance. So popular are they, particularly the Lab, that they really need no introduction. Capitalizing on the popularity and versatility of the Labrador Retriever, a group of its adherents have deliberately developed a strain of pointing Labrador. Since Labradors can be among the most proficient sidebar breeds for hunting ruffed grouse and woodcock, two other retriever breeds, Chesapeakes and Goldens, may also qualify. Neither is a rare breed, Goldens being second only to the Lab in general popularity and Chesapeakes plugging along as the third most recognizable retriever breed. An introduction to the other spaniel breeds, both well-known and virtually unheard of by grouse hunters, should be helpful if you choose to consider a flusher. These will be brief and general, but should save you from taking the wrong fork in the trail. Cocker Spaniels. According to an old British gamekeeper I once interviewed, proper spaniel work involves the dog going in low and coming up from underneath, not leaping and coming down through the top of the cover. When it comes to rooting out tight-sitting game, English working cockers are little darlings. These are not the pop-eyed, profuse-coated American cockers unfit for the field, or even the good-looking English cockers shown on the bench, sharing with some Boykin Spaniels the distinction of being the smallest practical gun dogs afield. 20-pounders will determinately drag in a rooster pheasant, but handle retrieves of woodcock and ruffed grouse effortlessly. Miniature physical replications of field-bred English springers, they display pluck and a bit of stubbornness along with affectionate appeal. Boykin Spaniels, sons and daughters of the Deep South. Boykins are South Carolina's state dog. Boykin Spaniels are readily adaptable to Northeast and Great Lakes states' ruffed grouse and woodcock hunting. Bred almost exclusively for their hunting ability, these proficient spaniels vary greatly in size and coat texture. Some are short-legged and cockerish in appearance, some resemble liver-colored Brittany's. Artwork depicts them as strongly resembling American water spaniels. What's standard about them is their willingness and ability to hunt, a reality that reflects their indeterminate origins and their reputation as waterfowl and quail retrievers, as well as turkey hunters in their homeland, along with their ability to do elsewhere anything any other spaniels can. American Water Spaniels. American Water Spaniels and Boykin Spaniels doubtlessly share common ancestry, and both had their beginnings as skiff, canoe, or pirogue dogs. Compact waterfowl retrievers unlikely to capsize tippy watercraft. The American Water is Wisconsin's state dog, reflecting its origin in the Wolf and Fox Rivers waterways in that state and the Midwest. Partridge hunters liked American Water Spaniels way back when ruffed grouse were ventilated with shot for table fare rather than venerated as the king of game birds. Some oversized representatives of the breed show up from time to time, but on average, Americans are between Boykin and Springer in size. They don't have the dash of a Springer, but their slower gait is preferred by deliberate and elderly hunters. With a heritage of being both feather and fur dogs, many adapt quickly to mixed-bag hunting. Irish Water Spaniels. If a hunter enjoys the attention accorded unusual gun dogs, he might give the Irish Water Spaniel some consideration. Poodle-like in appearance, intelligence, and exasperating temperament, Irish Waters are retriever-sized and so classified by the American Kennel Club. While having a history of being a waterfowl specialist, favored by old-timers, and, like Chesapeake Bay retrievers, predating labs and goldens in popularity, the Irish have largely been abandoned by hunters. Often perversely clownish, they're a fun dog in the house or on a hunt, but a serious gunner would prize them as a humorous conversation piece, perhaps the most way out among oddball grouse dogs. Wachtelhunde. Because of its rarity, the Wachtelhund, a German spaniel, would vie with the Irish Water as the most novel of the prospective grouse dogs, overshadowed by the votes of form-fascinated sportsmen. However, like the Boykin, this continental spaniel has been bred strictly for performance, not appearance, and is touted as a multi-purpose gun dog. As with all German breeds, the Wachtelhund is highly intelligent, cooperative, and trainable. Presumed to be capable as a hound and harrier on big game, as well as a producer and retriever of game birds and small game, all depending upon the emphasis and effort a trainer invests. They naturally open and bay on hot scent. Although there may be fewer than 150 in the country, they are starting to attract some attention more than 50 years after their introduction in the US. The capabilities are there. But to prosper in America, they probably will have to become essentially bird dogs, as did the docked-tailed continental pointers before them. The list of non-pointing bird dogs that may rate consideration by sportsmen seeking something different when upland bird gunning ranges from the ubiquitous beagle to the virtually non-existent field spaniel. Suggestions about them and the curly-coated retriever, flat-coated retriever, Clumber Spaniel, Sussex Spaniel, and Welsh Springer Spaniel will have to be found elsewhere. My personal experience with those breeds is too limited for me to offer authentic, worthwhile comments. But if other family members have made the breed choice, or you personally have a yen for gunning companion that's outside the prescribed mode, there's a great deal of satisfaction in meeting the challenge of nurturing a true sporting dog that arouses the curiosity of other hunters who ask, "What kind of dog is that?" Furthermore, if you encounter another hunter following some strange critter and ask that question, and he replies, "It's just a mutt," or "It's an Airedale Terrier," or "It's a cross between such and such," Don't sneer before you've eyeballed the bulge in his game pocket. Republished with permission from Oddball Gun Dogs for Iconoclastic Grouse Shooters by David Michael Duffey, 2005. The Upland Almanac, Spring 2005. 2005 by David Michael Duffey.